Hi, this is Bill McKenna. Welcome to UK Health Radio's New Life Perspectives show. Thank you for joining today. I am really excited about today's subject. It is about the hidden cause and resolution of life issues. Now, I I basically had stumbled across all of this, and it evolved over the years of a better understanding of what causes our health and what pulls our health in every possible way down: our physical health, our emotional health, our spiritual health. All is related to the voltage in our physical body. I know that sounds crazy, but if you keep tuned in and listen to this entire thing, you're going to see that it is all related, and that us humans, we are an actual physical, like a battery, if you will. Our battery has voltage, it has a positive charge, it has a negative charge, and it has a grounding. So with this, if we have a voltage that is really good, it's positive, we're going to have accelerated, physical health, emotional health, and spiritual health. And this is not just speculation, and there's a bunch of science that has been done related to this. One of the first big educations that I got was through Dr. Jerry Tennant. So Dr. Jerry Tennant is a Harvard trained doctor, and he's actually started something called the Tennant Institute. They help people, and they also have done a tremendous amount of research. So I really never thought that, we were a battery. That didn't really make any sense to me. But it turns out that we are. We have a positive charge, a negative charge, and also grounding as well. And when any one of these is out of whack, right, we start to run into problems. So one of the very basics that I got uh, is out of Dr. Jerry Tennant's work, is that if your voltage in your body is low, what happens is that the cells don't reproduce. And if there's high voltage, they do. I think, and this is out of memory, so I might have this screwed up, but I think it was something like 30 millivolts. At that level, cells don't reproduce. And at something like 50 to 60 millivolts, they will reproduce. So this is kind of important information, and we're going to talk a little bit about what retards the voltage and what can increase your voltage. These are really ultimately, right? If voltage is relative to health, then it comes down to, hey, what can we do? How can we increase our health? So some of the things that might be going on for you if you have low voltage in your body is you might find yourself with unexplainable pain. You might find that you have a certain amount of digestion issues. You might find that you have like fuzzy thoughts, right? Kind of a brain fog, if you will. There's so many different things, and they're all interrelated. Our heart itself is an actual electrical mechanical device that is pumping, right? It's pumping our blood. And so we need that voltage and those electrical charges to be correct. It turns out that our neurology, our neurological system in our body is a transmitter. It what it does, it's like the power lines or carrier of electricity, the wiring, if you will, in our body that carries all of these electrical charges. So with this, it's certainly very important, right, to have your wiring right. You know, if you cut your wiring, that's kind of a little bit of a problem. Fortunately for us, our body neurologically, there's a lot of redundancy in our body as far as the neurological system goes. And these connections, in fact, can find their way to rewire. Now, when this whole started here, this episode, I promised that I would talk about what can we do to increase our voltage. And there is something very, very simple that you can do to increase your voltage. Now, I'll start this off with a story. There was a person that I used to work with, and if he ever got a cold or a flu, he would feel it coming on, and you know what he would do? He would go out, put his running shoes on, and force himself to run. Run, like a really aggressive run. Now, that's about the last thing I would do, right? I mean, if you're listening to this, that does not sound good at all. And by the way, I'm not giving any sort of medical advice that you do this, I'm just talking about somebody that I saw do this. And I, I don't do it. So if I'm not doing it, I can't say that, I've actually done it myself, but I did observe over a course of years that this guy, whenever he did not feel good, he felt a cold or flu coming on, he would go out and aggressively run. And when he did that, he got better. I mean, he literally ran and sweat, and then he came back and it was like it was all over with. Well, one of the things that was going on right there is that he was boosting up the voltage in his body. So surrounding all of your muscles, if you've ever cut open a chicken or a turkey, you see that silver membrane kind of that goes around the muscles. Maybe you've seen that. Well, that fascia that goes around those muscles, when you exercise, it produces voltage. And your thighs are one of the biggest muscle groups in the body. So by running, you're literally utilizing the largest group of muscles in the entire physical body and using them very aggressively. So you are producing a tremendous amount of voltage. And as we know, more voltage equals better health. So it really boosted up his system. So that was really kind of cool to see. Now, Dr. Jerry Tennant had done some other research, which was if that fascia was cut and the electricity was not transmitting, then, there would be all kinds of other health related issues. And when that mended, those in fact would go away. This is really kind of important information for those of us that are like myself. Had a lot of surgery. I had a skydiving accident when I was 28, and not only did I have spinal surgery, crushed my lower back, but I also had exploded one of my femur, one of my legs, the big bone in one of my legs there. And they had to cut quite a bit in order to get all of the implants done. So, so those damages to the fascia can be related to other physical issues if it's not transmitting this fascia is not transmitting the actual voltage. So kind of a really good to know, and good to know that you can do something about it. The Tenet Institute kind of specializes in these sorts of things. And I'm not a spokesperson for the Tenet Institute or anything like that. I just merely somebody who looked at their work and said, "Gosh, I love what they're doing over there." So, if you exercise, if you think about it in very practical term, uh, the bigger the muscle group, the more that you're going to get the voltage. And if you're, say, just exercising, right, your hands, that's a very small muscle group, right? But if you're doing a full body workout, obviously you're going to be generating a lot of voltage. Now, the gut also has a lot of this ability to generate voltage. So people that are into yoga and that sort of thing, when they do something called the breath of fire. So what is that breath of fire? They basically are going to pulse right at their belly button, just a little bit lower than the belly button. And what they'll do is they will breathe in and out. And as they breathing out, they basically contract this belly button area and forcing the air uh, in and out through that. Now, because there is so much to the intestines and all that, there's a tremendous amount of voltage that you can generate through that exercise as well. And it turns out that that particular place in the physical body is the center of the positive electrical voltage. So you are right in the area right there that has the positive electrical charge, and you're able to generate a lot of electricity by doing that. When you do this exercise, uh, if you've done properly, you'll find that you actually generate quite a bit of heat during that process as well, more so than you would generate with doing the same type of exercise in other areas of the body. So this is another sign that you're generating a lot of voltage. We need to take a little break here. A practical method to increase your voltage that it really works. So stay with me. Here we go. UK Health Radio. Take it away. All right, and we're back. Today we're talking about voltage, your electrical charge in your body, and your health. So it turns out that the ancients knew about this electrical charge in the body, I guess. They knew how to manipulate it through breath and that breath of fire, and then other types of yogic exercise. So some of these ancient civilizations really kind of had a leg up on us in the West. But this voltage that we're discussing today, it has everything to do with your emotional health as well. So when I say emotional health, what do I mean by that? Well, for most of us, we go through our lives in some sort of feeling that's unwanted. Maybe it's a bit depressed. Maybe it is shame, guilt, humiliation, anger, fear, resentment, blame. Maybe it's, you can't even describe it, but I just don't feel so good. Now, when we have any of these emotions that are uh, less than really joyful, what happens is that it actually pulls down, represses, or retards the voltage in the body. So I know that sounds like, oh, that doesn't sound right. I don't believe that. But we actually have done a number of tests on this, and the results are very consistent. When we release whatever that negative emotion is, what happens is there is 50%, maybe even 100% increase in the voltage in the body. Now, I'm not the only one that has done research on this. Uh, um, there's Dr. Joe Dispenza has done research on it as well. And when they do their work, they're getting the type of results that we get as well. Just incredible voltage boosts. And this has to do with the release of what's keeping us in the old pattern emotionally. And when we do this, uh, this voltage actually will materially impact our brain. The amount of millivolts uh, that Dr. Joe Dispenza has done is just absolutely unheard of. It looked like the person's having a seizure, but they're not. That it's that high type voltage, but they're in absolute bliss. So this is now becoming mainstream science, whereas before there was no science behind it. And there was no real knowledge because they didn't have the ability to test these type of things. Some of the people that I get to work with, they come in with a lot of resentment towards other people. Like, they may have had a narcissistic mother or father, or maybe they went to jail or something, and they were falsely accused of something. Well, these type of things that were really significant for a person in their lives, if they don't process it, then what happens is every single organ in the body ends up responding. So we have a device, it's called a biowell. It'll actually measure the voltage in the body, and it measures it in every single organ in the body. So one of the stories I love to tell is about a woman who she had resented uh, her husband, uh, and she wanted to get a divorce. Now, she had three babies, and these babies were young. I mean, they're, you know, the oldest is like 12, so these are very young children. And in order to, you know, make that decision, right? You're going to divorce your mate and, uh, now be a single parent with multiple children. You have to have some real strong feelings, to actually pull the trigger on that. Now, there's obviously there's so many times when it's fully, warranted that that's the best thing that to happen. But in this particular case, what ended up happening is the woman had come to me and said, um, I'm going to get a divorce, and I don't need any help with that. What I do need help with is I'm sick and tired of being so angry, you know, and I just, I want to get a divorce, but I don't want to have all of these negative feelings and thoughts that are, basically hatred. So, okay, no problem. So we allowed her to simply feel how she felt and to feel the anger, to feel the hatred. And then we did these exercises, they're physical exercises uh, that it's called Cognomovement. And Cognomovement is a modality that exploits natural neurological responses that every physical body has. It's based in neuroscience. So you basically let the person feel how they feel, and then you do these physical exercises, which end up causing the release of this. Now, it's different because it focuses on the feeling in the body, and the person just lets themselves feel how they feel, and it releases it out of the body so they don't feel it anymore. And when you don't feel it anymore, you don't think it anymore. Well, we had with this a a situation that was unexpected for her, and that was that once the all of the hatred and the anger was gone, she began to have a feeling of love and appreciation. They say that there's really only two emotions. There's fear-based or love-based. So everything is either a derivative of love or derivative of fear. And so if you look at it in simplistic terms, with the absence of a fear, you only really have one other choice, and that's some derivative of love. We had taken away all of the fear-based stuff, right? Anger is underlying it as a fear. So we had taken it, all of those things away. And, ultimately, it was all resided in she felt like she was doing everything herself and that she was the only one working. But after she got done with the exercise, not only did she notice that he's actually doing a lot of work. It's not the work she's doing. It's not the work she wanted him to do, but he was supplying all of the money for a wonderful life, vacations and everything for her and her family. So she started to see things differently. There was obviously much, much more to it than I could go into here. But when this was over with, what happened is she had a voltage increase in her body. We tested this before and after, and the voltage in her body doubled. Now, it's like crazy amounts of increase in voltage. And when this happened, she felt so much better. She had no more anger, no more resentment, and felt this sense of love for her husband. And she ends up um, going back, uh, you know, to her husband and not getting divorced. So I did not see her for months. It just so happened I was walking down a street in a city that I lived near, and all of a sudden, there she was. I saw her, and she came over. She was laughing, she was waving and laughing, and she was like, "Oh my gosh, I need to tell you, you know, um, me and my husband, we're go out on dates," and where she was like in a place where she was like, I don't want to ever see him, I don't want to be around him, I can't stand anything about him. When she was that way, what she ended up, obviously she didn't want to be touched or anything or be around him. And she said now she was like craving him. She wanted to be with him. They would go out on date nights. And the most wonderful thing of all that she told me is that after all of this, it was several weeks after, her daughter came to her, this young daughter, and said, Mommy, I like how our family is now. So this had a material impact on everybody. Now, her voltage in her body, uh, not only doubled, but there was also this interesting effect where it went into balance as well. All of the organs in the body, they can measure the sympathetic versus parasympathetic voltage. And what ended up happening is they all went into balance. Every organ, the sympathetic, parasympathetic, went into balance, where most of them were out of balance when she came in. So not only were they out of balance, they were also repressed. There's these spiritual teachings, that are out there that talk about, what you hold against another you is held against you. And it's not just talk. When I saw this and saw this report and saw the voltage and saw that everything had come into balance, I was like, it hit me. Those teachings, right? They weren't just talking. What we hold against another, we literally hold right against ourselves in our own physical body. Isn't that amazing? I find it amazing for sure. So here we go. It's time for another break with UK Health Radio that we have from our sponsors. Hold on, because the last part of this is the most exciting. We have that free exercise that I'm going to give you at the end, right after this from our sponsors. All right, and we're back. Again, we're talking about your voltage, your physical, your emotional, and your spiritual health, and the intersection of this and that electrical charge in your body. Well, I hope you're all enjoying this and learning new things today. The thing that I wanted to bring forward, which is mind blowing, is something called the MEG, or magnetoencephalography. Now, magnetoencephalography is a relatively newer technology. Everyone here, if you're listening, is probably familiar with an EEG. Now, an EEG is where they put a cap on your head and they measure your brain waves. Everybody knows about that, right? You have different brain waves. You have alpha, beta, theta, delta. Anyway, there's different brain waves. And with this EEG cap, you can actually measure all of those brain waves. Now, what's happened here is that there are several universities, and now it's even expanding way beyond universities. There's you can get an MEG reading at other places now too. But this MEG device is a device that measures all of your brain activity with sensors that are not attached to your head. These are out in space. So you literally are getting your brainwave measured through sensors that are not connected to the head. But what are these sensors measuring? What these sensors are measuring is an electrical charge in the field outside of your head. It's amazing. So this technology they can actually map those electrical charges to your brain, where your brain has inactivity or activity, and your brain wave, theta, alpha, delta. It'll measure all of it. So this is really cool, but it has implications beyond just, how's my brain doing? It is the scientific verification that your thoughts are non-local. They're not just in your physical brain. Wow, that's something to digest, right? In these spiritual type teachings, right, they talk about, that your thoughts are non-local, and that people obviously telepathically can pick up on your thoughts across the globe. There's lots of science that's proven all this out. So this MEG is the scientific proof that there is an electrical charge in the field around you. And the ancients knew this, right? But they knew it from a different perspective. There were certain people that could see energy, right? Maybe they had a near-death experience, or maybe that they were, got there through some sort of chemical journey, if you will, some sort of, ayahuasca or, LSD trip or whatever. But this, these thoughts and feelings that we have are actually out in the field around us. Now, they'll stay there. They have mass, and they also have a dimension to them. So they have a dimension and mass. Now, I know this sounds nuts, but until we experience something ourselves, then it's never really real. So I'm going to show you something today on how to do that. You have something that has happened, the biggest problem in your life, the person that was the biggest problem, or something that you've been really charged up about, right? Yeah, maybe it's, you've been having or had a terrible situation where you got fired, or there was something that happened in your life that was really hard. Now, ask yourself if this experience was in the field somewhere around me within an arm's length, where would that actually be? Where would it be if it was somewhere? Now, what you'll do here is you're going to simply open your hand. Doesn't matter, either hand. You open your hand, and at about the pace of a little faster than a snail, you reach out with an open hand and you feel the field around you. Now, what you might notice is if the air feels a little bit thicker there. Does it feel a little thicker? Or does it feel like little micro shocks in your hand there where you think that experience might be? Maybe it feels a little hot. Maybe it feels a little bit cold. Notice you can go to the left of it with your hand and slowly feel the field right there. And you go to the right of it and slowly feel the field. If you're flailing about or if you're moving your hand quickly, you will not be able to feel it. You need to move very, very slowly and simply put the attention on your hand. And as you do this, what you'll find is that you feel this thickness. If you go underneath it, find underneath it, and you come up under it, you'll actually feel the weight of it. I know this sounds crazy, but it's really interestingly true. You can even use both of your hands. So these things are actually sitting out there in our field, right around us. So you have a current or voltage that goes around you. It's a torus. It's kind of like a donut. So as these experiences, this thickness in the field, it seems to slow things down. And you can imagine, because for those of you out there that are actually trying this out, it's so thick that you can feel it. Now, here's a fun one for you. Go ahead and just clap right in that area. Just clap. You clap really loud right in that area. Clap that whole area and really be, somewhat aggressive with the clapping. And then feel that area again. Does it feel as thick as it was? Or does it feel like it's basically like gone? So anyway, it's really neat. Now you can do that, and you might notice when you do this, for some of you, that you actually felt this kind of heat surge through your body. you might have actually felt like, oh my gosh, why did I get hot like that? So you can do this and feel where other things are out in your field, and then try clapping those out. All right. So when we have these type of things out in our field, they're really some sort of kind of unresolved issue. And the field around us is really from either the past or the future. So, so it's really important to consider, is is this somebody I can forgive, or this situation something I can forgive or let go of? There are easy ways to do that. One of them obviously is to utilize Cognomovement for that. And the beautiful thing about it is you never really have to try to let it go. You simply let yourself feel how you feel and do the exercise, and the next thing you know, you just don't feel that way anymore. All right. Um, there is a really interesting thing about this voltage when it's inappropriately handled. And I tell you a story about my mom. Now, I had no idea that my mother had suffered with severe leg cramps for almost all of her life. From when she was a teenager, she was only 13 or 14 years old, all the way until when she was 82 or something like that. Now, she had suffered with these leg cramps that 3 to 4 times a week, she would get woken up with severe leg cramps. Now, obviously that's kind of disturbing. I didn't even know it. Uh, but what ended up happening is I had this wonderful student of mine who decided to send my mother, they call it an earthing mat. And an earthing mat is it's a little a piece of material that has a electric wire attached to it. And it's a grounding wire, and then you plug this grounding wire like into a normal plug in your outlet in your house. And they even give you a little device to check and see if the outlet is grounded. Well, she said, "Hey, you know what? This is a really good thing to try out." And my mother, did it. We went and checked the electrical connection in the house, made sure it was good, and my mother began to use it. I really forgot about it, but uh, after 2 or 3 months, um, somehow, some way, the subject came up of the earthing mat, and she says, "Oh yeah, yeah, I've been using it every day, for the past 3 months." And she says, "I just realized today that I haven't had one leg cramp in the past 3 months. No more getting up at night with leg cramps." So, what's going on with that? Well, these leg cramps were related to her not being grounded. In her family, you were never allowed to go outside without your shoes, right? You get up in the morning, put a pair of shoes on, right? Just everybody's got to have shoes on, right? All the time. And you don't take your shoes off in the house either, unless you're going to bed or something. So, anyway, that was kind of an entire life thing. The separation or insulation from the earth, from grounding, was not allowing that voltage in the body to be grounded. Now, if you're listening to this, there's a simple resolution, and that is that you can just walk outside without your shoes on, or, put your feet in the dirt, right? There's other ways to do it as well, like put your foot on the drain in your shower, and when you're taking a shower, that will ground you as well, because the pipes are grounded out to the earth. So these are really basic things that you can do. A grounding mat, if you don't live in the right environment, where you can go outside during the winter, is a great alternative. Now, I promised here, we only have a few minutes left to go, but I promised that I was going to give you a little exercise that was going to help. And here it is. Now, the discovery, this additional discovery is, and this is related to the whole electrical charge in the body, is that we have, when we connect to the actual earth, and I mean physically with our feet, then what happens is we will increase dramatically the voltage in the body. I did this test prior to, right here, that some people can see if you're watching this on video versus on the radio. There's a test, and it shows all of the energy centers in the body and the amount of voltage that they generate. And the post test is, there was a dramatic increase in voltage when I tested this. You can tell it by the size of the actual energy center that we ended up testing. So this is an extraordinary amount of increase in the voltage in the body from simply connecting your feet to the earth. Now, in addition to this, the other thing I wanted to show you was something that was really practical and easy for everybody around the globe, unless you're living in the Arctic or very far north and very far south in the winter. And that is that the sunset or the sunrise. So have you ever noticed that when you watch a sunset, that you feel very peaceful afterwards? You might have had a hard day, but after you watch a sunset, you're like, you know what? Things are going to be all right. Well, there's a really good reason for this within your neurology. And that is, for the people who can see here, this is the before and after. What happens is, for you guys watching that can't see this, is that all of your energy centers that are in your body actually go right into balance. The before is out of balance, and then they actually go right into balance. So this is a really very practical way to not only increase your voltage, but also for you to balance your energy centers. If a lot of the things in life are not going your way, go watch the sunset and put your feet on the earth. It's very simple, it's very practical, and it's something that anybody can do at any time. Now, thank you all for hanging in there with me throughout this winding voltage episode. I wanted to make sure to let you know, if you'd be interested in help getting your voltage up, cognomovement.com, cognomovement.com. There's basic training there for you that you can start with, and there's online videos and all the tools necessary to begin the process. Thank you all. There's some free ebooks there too, called Suffering is Optional. If you put in your email address, you'll get those sent to you. Thank you, UK Health Radio, and we will see you next episode.